you led me straight to the fall. I'm broken, I'm still trying, skin and bone.
Today we are gonna just do a quick rant. Maybe it's not gonna be so quick because there's a lot to complain about. The new Velma show has been released, and I don't understand how they can release The Last of Us and the Velma show within such a short period of time. It was pretty much just like a few days apart and just be totally different. The Last of Us only needed to change like a few things to be like perfect. Meanwhile, Velma needed a few things to be changed to not be a 0%. And I used to do reviews of shows, and I always kind of like overestimated. There's definitely a bunch of shows I would have given lower scores to. And I would say this, even with me overscoring TV shows, trying to count in that, well, you know, at least the camera wasn't falling over, I still would have given Velma a very, very low rating. And listen, I'm not even going to complain about the race swapping and things like that, because that's not even close to being a major issue compared to some of these things. They released the first 2 episodes, and I'm just gonna go into like kind of a list of different things that happened. And I remember trying to make this list, and there was just so much bad stuff happening that I could barely list it all. At least it improved a little bit in episode 2, but by God, episode 1 was awful, and episode 2 was just slightly better. But like the first 2 lines of the show was just kind of like insults, like other TV shows, and it doesn't even seem like it's kind of like an on-the-nose type of thing. It didn't feel like a joke. All ending in a god-awful murder bitch line. It all starts with a murder bitch. It was so cringe. They didn't even like have like a full delivery. And I really thought because it's Velma, you know, the naughty girl, she's clumsy, she's gonna trip, and it would be kind of like, haha, she was overconfident, but then, you know, falls. No, it wasn't. I don't know why I thought they would at least keep that for the character. They changed everything else. And then right after that, if the swearing didn't prove that this show was not for kids, in the first minute, they had the 2 cockroaches just randomly started getting it on for no reason, just to prove that it's a show for adults. And then they tried to do this whole like self-aware thing, trying to call out over-sexualization in TV shows while doing it. And it felt flat. It didn't feel like aware humor. It just was bland. And they did this a lot where they do these like, oh, this is a self-aware thing, when it didn't really feel like they were being self-aware. It just felt like they wanted to insult other shows and like movies. Like, it felt very mean-spirited, and I think that's the biggest thing with Velma, is that the show just didn't feel like they were happy when making it. But then, of course, they have during that scene a bunch of high schoolers nude, because, I don't know. Then it leads to Daphne, like, drowning someone, like, trying to, like, drown someone for no reason. Like, they turned her, like, pretty girl type of thing into just, why isn't she just a mean bitch? You know what? Why don't we just do that? Which is completely different for a character. You know, I mean, just because you're pretty does not mean you have to be mean. And then Velma jumps in to be a hero, randomly brings up race issues for no reason. And listen, I'm fine with TV shows having like serious subjects talked about. This felt like they just wanted to munch in them. And then they did like the body falling out of the locker, and Velma gets arrested, and she, of course, in the first few minutes they have to bring up something line about no God, because they got every other serious topic out there. They had over-sexualization, race themes, might as well go with no gods as well. And then they brought up like lesbians in like cop shows, so they're getting the trifecta here. For a show that's trying to be for adults, they don't really get adult humor. They're just like saying things and hoping we'll laugh, but without making a joke about any of these things. It's not even just that the jokes are bad. They have so many writing points that just make no sense. Like, Velma just like explains that her and Daphne have drifted away. Later, she just randomly explains Fred her entire character motivation about her mom going missing, just for that to be retconned a few minutes later. And then a few minutes after that, she's still gonna go look for the mom. And it just makes no sense. He over-explains PTSD vision type things, but they only call them hallucinations. But beyond that, the jokes are bad, the writing is bad, their way of building story is bad. And I've already mentioned that Daphne was bad and Velma is not even close. They took out the naughty aspect, with just being like different. So she's not even shown to be that much smarter. She's just seen, like, the way they do the smart just makes it seem like she's better than everyone, which does not show she's intelligent. This makes her seem so unlikable. But let's talk about Shaggy and Fred. They turned Fred into like a pampered mama's boy who can't even cut a steak, instead of being like a smart leader. It's almost as if they saw him being like a male leader and they're like, nah, we gotta turn that on their heads. Velma started the group, which is one of the things they say in the first line of the show. That Velma started the group, which is why it kind of feels like they saw other Scooby Doo shows. Shaggy just comes halfway and he's just not even close to being the same character. He's not a bad character until like really episode 2, where he's just overly desperate. But I mean, he's kind of okay. It's just like they insult Shaggy pretty much. Like, one of the points, they literally have Daphne laugh at the idea of Shaggy, aka Norville, liking Velma. Just the idea gets her out of her hallucinations just because how funny it is. And Fred might be like shown to also be mean, but he does something nice by the end of the episode. And then Velma just accuses him of murder, despite he literally did nothing. I mean, in the second episode, he doesn't help his own case. But in the first episode, Fred actually stands up for Velma at one point in his own weird way, and Velma kind of just scoffs. And then, of course, helps him get arrested for murder. And then in episode 2, besides continuing the points I mentioned there, Velma tries to deal drugs. They randomly bring up the Me Too movement. Shaggy finally starts to eat food, like one of the big parts of Shaggy is that he likes food, but he's just a YouTuber who does food reviews. Despite Daphne randomly hating Velma, because despite used to being friends, they kind of slightly get along, and then kiss. Yeah, it just all leads to them kissing. And Fred getting humiliated for no reason, because they just seem to really hate Fred. And they seem just to hate a lot of things about the original show. Because the whole thing about Scooby Doo, because I love Scooby Doo, and pretty much have watched every show, every movie. So the whole point, and which has been shown in so many modern Scooby Doo projects, and you could tell just from the originals, that all the differences is supposed to bring them together and like each other. That they use each other's differences to grow as a group and help one another. In this show, they just all hate each other. Besides that, Shaggy, aka Norville, likes Velma, but Velma just kind of disrespects him. I mean, they explain that they are friends for a while, but it kind of just Shaggy comes in halfway through the episode, as I said, and he's just assumed to know all the knowledge. Like, they don't explain much. It's just that oh, by the way, this is my best friend. We're just gonna pretend like he's been here this entire time. But all the characters either hate each other, or they love each other. Because even Velma liked Fred at one point in the episode. Daphne was dating Fred, and now Daphne and Velma like each other, and Shaggy likes Velma at this point. I'm glad Scooby is not in the show, but there's rumors that there's gonna be a character named Gigi, which is gonna replace Scooby, and that's gonna be Shaggy's love interest. So this show is only gonna get worse from here. So many bad things about the show, and I got everything I expected. And some people are saying don't hate watch it because it's just gonna renew a season 2. Listen, HBO Max knows people hate it. I know there's rumors of them working on a season 2, but that doesn't mean it's gonna happen. You can tell HBO Max knows that they are doing bad because instead of advertising the show, they're advertising it's the most watched animated show for a premiere on HBO Max, which, listen, you can tell that just reeks of desperation to try to save face. I don't know. Let me know what you thought of the show in the comments below. I've been Birdime. Thanks, have a good night.
I'm done with hitting your wall. Short notice, I just gotta let you know. You led me straight to the fall. I'm broken, I'm still trying, skin and bones. You lied.